Great. And you should get a little note asking you, is that cool? Awesome. So let's get started. I know we've already been chatting, but I'll introduce myself. So I'm Stephanie Haynes. I use she, her pronouns, and I am the director of Philly Family Pride, which is the LGBTQ-led family group for the greater Philadelphia region, of course, including our friends in South Jersey and the 5-county plus PA area, and folks in the state of Delaware too, who come to our events. And we have had many of these foster parent recruitment or info sessions over time, and they're always so valuable, I think, for the folks who attend. And we're always so grateful to DHS, Lorenzo and Dion for coming to talk to us about the requirements, and for Tiffany, who's also our board co-chair, to talk about fostering to adopt. So I will remain on the call, but I'm going to be kind of in the background from here. And I'm just going to introduce Eric Larson. Eric is the Deputy Director of the Mayor's Office for LGBT Affairs in Philadelphia. And I see Eric on a monthly basis. I'm on the Mayor's Commission for LGBT Affairs, so we have our meetings too. Eric is just going to talk for a minute about the importance of becoming a foster parent. So take it away, Eric.
Thank you, Stephanie, and hello, everyone. As Stephanie said, my name is Eric Larson, he, him pronouns, Deputy Director of LGBT Affairs in the Mayor's Office here in Philly. It has been a real pleasure and honor of mine, really, for years to be participating in these events. I spoke at a foster parent info session. Actually, it was one of my last pre-COVID in-person things in late February of 2020. So we've been doing this for a few years, and always happy for the opportunity to get on here and partner with DHS and Philly Family Pride. So again, thank you for the opportunity to be here and chat with you all for a little bit. Like Stephanie said, I don't really have formal prepared remarks, but I just really am here to kind of reiterate the importance of, showing up and being interested and willing to consider this as an option for you and your family and in your life. We know that the world is not inherently set up to be affirming and welcoming to LGBTQ people in so many spaces. And of course, that includes, our LGBTQ young people. And our LGBTQ parents and potential parents. And I think that, just showing up tonight and bringing your interest and your curiosity and your questions and really wanting to learn more about this process is really, really important work, because, LGBTQ kids are so disproportionately represented in this system. And they need affirming homes like all other kids. And I think that as LGBTQ parents or potential parents, foster parents, you have a unique understanding of the challenges that our communities face every day in all different aspects of society. And part of what I think makes this event specifically so valuable and so engaging is that I know that Stephanie and the partners that help to put these events on really work hard to bring, different perspectives from different points of the process, from former or current youth. We have people who work, on kind of the staff and administrative end to help kind of navigate the process here. And then, of course, former and current foster parents as well, too. So I think that this is going to be a really great event. It's always informative. It's always engaging. I think that you all do a great job of creating a comfortable environment for people to ask questions without judgment and to feel safe to share their stories and experiences. So I'm just really appreciative for the opportunity to be here. The Office of LGBT Affairs, we're open 365 days a year. We're here for you. We're a small but mighty team. I will put my information in the chat just so you have access to it if you'd ever like to email me or reach out to our office for any reason about anything, foster parenting, family stuff, pride stuff, Philly stuff, gay stuff, whatever, otherwise, all year. So happy to be here. Happy to be a resource for you all. And thank you again, Stephanie and friends, for the opportunity.
Thanks so much, Eric. Really appreciate it. Great. Great, so we're going to move on to the DHS portion of the program, where Lorenzo, I believe, is going to share with us the information on becoming a foster parent, kind of the nuts and bolts and the requirements. And then following Lorenzo and Dion, who are both from DHS, just so folks know who's here, we're going to hear from Tiffany Byrd, who I mentioned earlier is the co-chair for Philly Family Pride and also works at a Second Chance. And she's going to talk more about the foster to adopt process. So take it away, Lorenzo.
Thanks, Stephanie. All right, so good evening again, everybody. My name is Lorenzo Shedrick. I'm the Resource Development Administrator with Philadelphia DHS. I'm going to do a brief presentation today about the nuts and bolts of how to become a resource parent, how to get that ball rolling. And I'm going to do that as soon as I figure out how to share my screen. I've been so used to Teams, Stephanie. I forgot.
Oh, that's how I feel when I'm on Teams. You find it, the share screen?
Yes, I got it.
Okay.
One second. All right, can you guys see this okay?
Yep, looks great.
All right. So this is just my name again with Philadelphia DHS. Also, my boss is on the call this evening, Dion Showell. She is the Director of Intervention and Resource Development. And she might, hop in and out as we're going through this, but I just wanted to get you all to know that she was here. So becoming a resource parent. All right, so at a glance, Philadelphia has roughly 3,330 children and youth in out-of-home placement, and that is as of this month. Those are great numbers. A drastic reduction of where we've been over the last few years, but this is where we are as of right now. So over half of our children and youth are placed with kin, which is a relative or a family friend that they have a close connection with. And some common reasons that families are reported to DHS include neglect, mental health and substance abuse, housing concerns, domestic violence, or physical or sexual abuse. So what does DHS do? So Philadelphia DHS is responsible for screening calls that come through the child abuse hotline. We investigate reports of abuse and neglect. We refer families for in-home services to keep them together. We always work to keep the child in the home whenever possible. We obtain a court order if necessary to remove youth from their home of origin. And we currently oversee 10 community umbrella agencies or CUAs, and roughly 25 foster care provider agencies. Those are agencies that are responsible for certifying resource parents. So what is a CUA? The CUA, or the Community Umbrella Agency, provides case management to children and families. The CUA case managers will typically see their youth at least once a month to check on the children and work with the family. The CUA case managers, they testify in court every so often about the child's well-being as well as the parent's progress, towards reunification, towards their goals for reunification. And then resource homes, if you do become a resource parent, sometimes if you foster multiple children, they could possibly have different case managers from different CUAs. And that's another conversation. So what is a provider? So like I said, DHS contracts with 25 foster care provider agencies. They're responsible for recruiting, training, and the certification of resource parents to provide foster care. When you are certified as a resource parent, you will be assigned a resource parent support worker or a staff person that is specifically assigned to your home to support you while you're fostering youth. And then like I said, when sometimes the youth in your home may have a different case manager, but you will always have the same resource parent support worker to work with you while you foster these youth. So some basic requirements are you should be at least 21 years old, pass criminal and child abuse clearances, reside in a safe home. You can rent or own your home with a bedroom or ample space for additional children, provide proof of financial stability, meaning that you're able to cover all of your personal expenses, and be physically and mentally able to care for a child. And I will do questions after this. If you guys have any questions, just At the end, we'll do a Q&A. So the certification process, a brief overview. You'll attend an information session or meet with the recruiter who will kind of give you the rundown. You'll turn in the application. You'll submit the applications for you'll do a Pennsylvania State Police clearance, a child abuse clearance, Act 160. You'll attend the pre-service trainings. This looks different across all of our agencies, but it's typically like 12 to 24 hours of training. You'll get a physical exam and a TB test that says that you're physically and mentally able to care for children. Someone will come and do a home safety check, make sure that you have running water, operable utilities, and that the home is safe and everything like that. And then a certification will get to know you and see which kind of youth you would best, be able to parent. So during that process, the providers will ask you for a proof of income, personal references, your current lease or deed to your home, homeowners and renters insurance, your state ID or driver's license and auto insurance, as well as the registration. If you have cats and dogs, they should be vaccinated. They'll ask you for those records. And then again, that physical that said that you're physically and mentally able to care for children. How long does the process take? So many resource parents can complete it in 2 to 3 months, depending on how quickly you complete the required trainings and get the clearances and provide the documentation. After you submit everything, work with that agency, they'll submit a request to DHS to open your home. Once the home is certified and open, they'll call you when children need a home. So if you decide you want to work with older youth, and then a provider receives a referral for a teenage youth who needs a stable home, they'll give you a call. Or when they get a referral for any youth in your preference range, they'll give you a call. So how our placement decision is made, again, the provider screens to identify a resource home that would be a good fit for that child, the age, gender, and number of children, where you live, and all the unique dynamics of your home are considered. The resource parent is given as much information as possible before deciding to accept the placement. And we always say it's important to keep an open mind. Our kids are not perfect. So when you're being removed from your home, or you have a trauma history or been through some things in life, that can show up a lot of different ways. So we always ask our families to keep a different mind when they're to keep an open mind when they're receiving information about children and youth. What about children with special needs? So at present, we have 3 levels of resource homes. There's general foster care, and children who fall into that category are children of any age who needs can be met with or without any specialized additional training or supports. And then specialized behavioral health homes, children of any age with significant behavioral health issues who may require some extra training and extra support so you can manage them in your home. Medical foster care includes medically fragile children, and you'll get some extra training around how to care for youth with medical needs and some training about their specific medical conditions. And then some resource homes only provide short-term or respite care, but that certification process is the same. But again, short-term respite is just for youth. You may be fostering youth for a very short, a brief period of time. Maybe you're giving another resource parent a break. Maybe the youth just needs a short-term placement until they return to another placement, so that we can talk more about that also. What kind of resource parents are needed? There's always a need for resource homes to care for children with different needs. Homes are in a shorter supply for sibling groups. So whenever possible, we do try our best to keep siblings together. So some resource parents, can only foster 1 or 2 kids. Sometimes we have larger sibling groups than 2. Older youth, there's a huge need right now for families willing to parent older youth. That means 13, 14, 15, 16, up to 18 years old. SBH and medical level youth, there is another extreme deficit of available resource homes for children with behavioral health needs, as well as medical needs. And then parenting youth, which are teens with children. So some teens come with their own children, babies or toddlers. There's a big deficit in homes for those youth as well. Permanency, I won't go too much into this because we have our permanency specialist here, Ms. Byrd, but just know the biggest thing is that permanency is the establishment of an identified adult or family who has made a commitment to care and support for a child up to and beyond the age of majority. So if you provide a permanent home via PLC or adoption, Tiffany will go much further into that. We would say that youth achieved permanency. So permanency is all about finding a permanent resource, a permanent placement, a forever family for our children and get them out of the foster care system. The resource parents' role in reunification. So when the goal is reunification, and typically when youth enter our system, the goal is always to get them back home to their family. The children should maintain their connection with the bio parents or other reunification resources while the parents work on their goals. They'll visit with their families weekly or bi-weekly. The resource parents should talk directly to the bio parents, at least monthly, about how their child is doing. We're really, making a movement to connect foster parents and bio parents. Is very crucial that they maintain a working relationship with each other, to best meet the need of the child. Children should never feel they have to choose between their families. And then according to the data, over half of our cases close with kids going back home to their family. So how do I adopt or obtain PLC? In short, if you are providing foster care for youth, again, the goal is for them to go back home usually, but when that starts to look a little shaky, their case team will start looking at other permanency options like adoption or PLC. If you're the one caring for the youth at the time, then you would be the initial resource. But again, Tiffany will come back and provide some more information on that. But it's important to note that adoption attorneys are provided by DHS at no cost. And the resource family can still get financial support when the adoption finalizes. So our LGBT youth in foster care. Nationwide, youth who identify as LGBTQ+ are overrepresented in care. Rejection or mistreatment by family related to sexual orientation can be a factor leading to placement. LGBTQ+ adults are uniquely able to relate to LGBTQ+ youth, serve as role models, and affirm their developing identities. Youth are encouraged to connect with programs such as the Attic Youth Center and all the other available resources for our LGBTQ+ youth. So if you wish to foster youth who identify as LGBTQ+, you can, of course, complete your certification with any agency. You'll let them know you have a specific interest in caring for these youth. And when those kind of referrals come through, when those types of youth need placement, you'll be the first on the list that they will reach out to. All right, and then, like I said, we'll do questions. So I will close this out. We can do a little Q&A if you have any questions. I know I just gave you guys a lot of information, but feel free to ask away. Or I can go back to a specific slide if necessary.
Thanks, Lorenzo. I did put PLC, permanent legal custody, in the chat, just so folks know what that stands for. And Tiffany, I think we'll probably talk more about that. So questions for Lorenzo from the chat, or if you want to unmute and ask.
Do we know how I want to close this? We'll stop sharing rather.
Just hit stop share, I think. There should be a red button maybe that says stop sharing.
I have a pause share, but I don't know.
Try that, see what happens.
Oh, I see it. All right, thanks, Steph.
There you go. Yeah.
I gotta get reacquainted with Zoom.
I can't even find the chat in Teams, so. So there, Erica there's a question in the chat. What is the difference between specialized behavioral needs and more general needs?
So a lot of our youth are coming in with some specialized needs. So often our youth with who have experienced trauma or have extensive trauma histories, who may have some behavioral concerns like ADHD is a very trendy diagnosis we're seeing our kids come in with these days, as ODD, oppositional defiance disorder. And these are all like I said, trendy diagnoses that we're seeing our kids labeled with these days. But typically, if they have specialized behavioral health needs, then that means they'll require some additional training to equip you to manage their behaviors inside the resource home. They'll have additional therapeutic supports, like maybe mobile therapy, they'll maybe engage in therapy, a few times a month, or any other, therapeutic resource, just to kind of help them stabilize their behavior. They may take medication for a specific diagnosis. So those are our youth who fall into the SBH or specialized behavioral health categories. Did that help? I'm sorry.
They said
Okay.
yes, that helped. Yeah. Other questions? I know I'll just ask a question for our South Jersey friends. For folks who aren't in Philadelphia, they would contact their local DHS. Do you know if things are very different in, let's say, South Jersey than they would be in Philadelphia as far as the requirements and process? They probably don't have the same KUA setup and all that, but
Right. As far as that case management goes, it could look a lot different. But I would assume that their foster care process is very similar. You have to turn in very similar documentation like background checks and proof of income, have somebody come out to your home and all that kind of stuff.
Nicole,
and
I was about to say
Garrett-
Nicole probably
Sorry.
knows.
Yeah, I was taking notes while Lorenzo was talking on the slides about what was different so that I can remember for John and Teal. So pretty much everything is the same except New Jersey doesn't have KUAs, but we just have like DCP&P offices by county. So they would reach out to Salem County and get set up through them. You get a resource worker, pretty much all the same basic requirements, same certification process. Our training is called Pride training. You have Office of Licensing come out and then and a home study. Also similarly, like when they ask you what kind of youth you want to foster, there's like a checklist to go over and like, are you willing, what age bracket, what gender, any medical needs that you're willing to take on. So it's pretty similar just for those couple things.
When you say the Pride program, is that an LGBTQ specific training, or that's just what it's
Oh,
called?
it's actually what it's called in New Jersey, the trainings. I know, funny. Yeah, that's Pride training.
Do they have a rainbow logo that goes with that too?
They do not, unfortunately.
Other questions before we move on?
Just a quick question. So since we're both teachers, because I know background checks can take a while, would we still have to go through background check within DCPP as well, even though we're certified teachers and have already gone through those background checks?
Yeah, they're gonna make you do it over like some
Okay,
of them.
that's fine.
Yeah.
That's all. Thanks.
All right, great. I think we'll go ahead and move on then to Tiffany. But if folks come up with other questions that are, that Lorenzo or Dion can help or Nicole can help with, feel free to, if you think of something later, it's not too late. So, all right, Tiffany, you're up.
All right, and just so you know, because we operate out of Philadelphia and we're one of the DHS providers, some of the information is going to look pretty similar. But let me share my screen. Just one moment. Like Lorenzo, I'm pretty used to that.
For me, it's on the bottom and it's green and it says share screen.
Okay.
There you go.
All right, now, you forget how different it is until these moments. I'm trying to go to slideshow view. All right, is that it? Did I get it?
Looks good. Yep.
Perfect. Okay. All right. So hi, everyone. as Stephanie said, and I do apologize, I'm getting over a cold, so I have a bit of a cough that's trickling, so I'll probably drink some of my Gatorade along the way. But my name is Tiffany Byrd. I'm the managing director over at Second Chance for the Philadelphia office. I oversee 3 of our core programs, which is our SBH, our Recruitment, and our Swan, which is the program I've spent the majority of my career in. We are located in some people call it Fishtown, and then other people call it like Lower Kensington or Kensington area. We're over on Delaware Ave in the 19125 zip code area near Springfield and Delaware Ave. So we're right across the bridge. A little bit about us. We are a kinship agency. We are actually Pennsylvania's first kinship agency. And our CEO actually went into this field and started the agency after being a foster youth herself within a kinship setting. She began a Second Chance in 1994 in the Allegheny County area and eventually branched off to the Philadelphia area in 2005. All right, so we are big. If you join the Second Chance family, we are big on our mission, our vision, and our mantra. And our mission is to strengthen and preserve healthy kinship families for children. And what that means is that when there is the opportunity for a child to remain with a relative or someone close or someone that they know, we fight for that. That is our #1 priority when that's possible. Our vision is a world where all youth are given an opportunity to grow into responsible adults, where abuse and addiction cycles are broken. And our mantra is every child touched by a Second Chance has a right to be safe and must thrive. I'm sure you guys can tell I say that very often. We actually start our meetings with that as well. Some of the services that we provide as an organization are something called family finding, which is in those instances where a child comes into care and they don't have someone that they know. We look into family finding, FGDM. We also have fingerprinting locally, which is if you do become a resource parent, you'll learn you want a nearby fingerprinting location, because it is something that gets updated pretty consistently. I'm sure for the teachers though on the line, you are used to getting printed pretty regularly. Other services are Swan. We have quite a bit of training, and Swan stands for the Statewide Adoption and Permanency Network, which I'm going to delve into quite a bit in this presentation. Recruitment, and then SBH, which is what Lorenzo was speaking on, specialized behavioral health. All right, so if you're thinking about the foster to adopt process, one of the things that I want you to start thinking on at this time is, why am I seeking a special needs adoption? And let me just say, every child that's coming from the foster care system is considered a special needs child, which means it's automatically a special needs adoption. Any child is going to fall under so many different categories as to why they're special needs, but just know when you're getting the documentation, it's saying, hey, we're looking at this. We want to know what's your reasoning for stepping up for this child. Another question is, what will it be like to parent a younger or older child? A lot of our kids, we do get kids that come into care at young ages, but a lot of the kids that come into care are actually older. One of the most popular or some of the most popular age groups are 13 to 17. Sibling groups between 5 and 8. Just children or children who have specialized needs, even though they may be younger. And then, of course, our teenage boys is a big thing for most provider agencies. You'll learn across the city of Philadelphia. Another thing I want you to consider is, what are your strengths? Every resource, if you are in this meeting, you're coming with strengths, and it's okay if you need our help to help identify them, but you have them, and let's think about what they are and how they benefit the child that you're seeking. Next is, who will support me? You know, sometimes people think they're doing this alone. They're going into this process by themselves. However, you already have a support network. You already have someone you call when things get rough. And, you know, just think about, you know, who will be that person for you as you're going through the home study process or the family profile process, and you're answering all these millions of questions. Who can you call to say, you know what, this is a lot, but I'm going to keep doing it because I want my child. And then lastly, what do I expect of my adopted child? We think we go into it without expectations. A lot of times we learn that we do. And sometimes we have the expectation that they will also give us unconditional love, you know? Sometimes that expectation, there are just so many different things. So those are some of the questions that I want you to be thinking about as you're entering into this process or even considering it. All right. So like what Lorenzo was speaking on in regards to the system, what comes in when a child comes into the foster care system, their first goal, and every child in care has a goal, let me just say that. However, they all start off with the first one. Now, what happens from there and where that goal may go, may lead you may be different, but they all start off with reunification. Every child that comes into care has a reunification goal first. And for that time period, the goal is to help the parent or biological family with whatever they need to move that process along. Now, I will be telling you all today about 2 different types of foster to adoption situations that our agency specializes in. So there is the one where you start off as a resource parent and you go straight to, you know, fostering, and then if and you agree that you'll be there for that child no matter where they end up. But then there's the other one where, you know, your heart wouldn't be able to take that departure, you know? And it's important that you recognize that early on, which type of resource parent that you are. And if you are the latter, the one where, you know, I can't have a child come into my house and into my life and into my family and that child walk away, then we're going to steer you more to the straight adoption through foster care route, which is something we call our ARFP route, which is the affiliate referred family profile route. So you take the same steps and you become certified and licensed. However, we only place you with children who are already freed for adoption. So those are the 2 options here, or adoption or PLC. So those are the 2 options here. And everything I say moving forward, just I want you to keep those 2 in mind, is that there's the one where you are a foster parent first, and there's the second where you have the choice to say, you know what, my heart couldn't take it, and I'm just going to go straight for the adoption. The second goal after reunification, after for whatever reason that child isn't able to be returned, is the adoption or PLC. And the reason I want to talk to you a little bit more about these 2 is because a lot of times when people come in, they want to adopt. However, not all children are open to it, especially if you're looking for an older youth. Sometimes that older youth may be interested in something called permanent legal custodianship, which still gives a lot, almost all of the rights of the adoption outside of, and it's outside of that birth certificate. Okay, so that birth certificate that says your name is where it's going to differ. So you still have custody, you still get to make, you know, most decisions. You still have so many of the other benefits, the insurance, the insurance, the everything else, even the post-perm services. If something happens later, I'll talk to you a little bit more about that, but even the post-perm services, if something happens, that you can call this number. The only thing is you will not have that birth certificate that says I or we are the parents of this child. But if you have an older youth that had previous connections, sometimes there was a death that caused that child to come into care. That may be the route that feels most comfortable for that child. And we really want to honor that route as well. If it's adoption, that means parental rights were terminated. If it's PLC, that means parental rights may or may not have been terminated. Even if parents' rights weren't terminated with the PLC, that doesn't mean that that parent still has custody or the ability to oversee decision-making. Sometimes if parental rights aren't terminated, it's typically because of a medical reason that wouldn't allow them to move forward. All right, Swan, the Statewide Adoption and Permanency Network. Swan was established. You know what? I actually, I believe it was 1984. I would have to double check that number, but it's been around quite a bit and for quite a while in the state of Pennsylvania, Statewide Adoption and Permanency Network. And what that does is it lists out a different affiliate agencies. So in addition to being a provider, we are also a Swan affiliate agency. And what that means is that the state trusts us to do a fair and accurate assessment of each family that we encounter. The way the process works is that DHS refers refers families to different Swan affiliates, and that affiliate then carries out the role, the Swan role, whether it be child profile, family profile, child prep, placement, or finalization. And one thing I noticed is that we don't have CSR on here. I have to add that, or CSR, which is child specific recruitment. And the family profile in some areas, I know that Lorenzo and Nicole both spoke to the home study. The family profile is also typically synonymous with the home study. Sometimes the differentiation just means the point at what time it's being done, it's being completed. So if it's being completed very early on, we tend to call it a home study. And if it's being completed later on in the service, it's tend to be being called a family profile. Some of the things we look at when we're developing a child profile. So this would mean that this child's been in your home for about 6 months and you are moving forward and this is about to be your child. Some of the things we'll look at is the social history, the medical background, the educational, current functioning, and that family history. Because even if you are adopting, a lot of times the child, when they get older, not even a lot of times, in most of the situation, that child is going to want to know where did they come from. And this is a document that allows that child to get a picture of this is where it started. It's provided to the adoptive parent after the adoption. And what it says is that, you know, this is your history. This is what your parent went through. This is what your family experienced throughout that time. As well as this is the things that happened to you before you were adopted. Family profile, this is the very long document that is completed on you as the resource parent. So we're getting the autobiography, we're getting the reasons that you want to provide permanency, clearances, medicals, family background, parenting styles. Parenting styles is the big one, you know, typically with 2-parent households, they think that they have like we're just going to do it this way. And then you learn through the family profile process that you guys have 2 very different parenting styles. And oftentimes, once you know it, you know how to utilize it, because sometimes it can be an amazing thing, but knowing what parenting style you have is so crucial to that child's development, because if you're polar opposites, hey, how are we affecting this? Or if you're on the same lines, you know, it can mean something very different to the child. And then what resources you have, again, you know, who's your family? And what's in your area. Another thing that we have is the child prep process. And what this does is prepares that child to even leave the system, prepares that child for what is going to happen. Child prep service answers 5 questions. Who am I? What happened to me? Where am I going? How will I get there? And when will I know I belong? Those questions are so crucial to our children, because processing through those questions, what we've learned through research is that if a child doesn't process through those questions prior to the adoption, sometimes they have a little bit harder time later on, maybe in their teenage years, just from not knowing. So we want to inform the child, make sure they're aware on an age appropriate level, but then also help them process through those feelings and put services in place that make sense for them at that time that they're becoming more informed. All right, next is sorry about that. Next in the process is, I just want to talk to you a little bit about what that time frame looks like. A lot of times when we have families come to us, they want to know, how long does this process take? You know, straight adoption, it can go a lot quicker. Straight adoptions happen pretty quickly, typically. Well, you know what, actually, let me not say that, because at the last meeting I learned from several parents that it took about the same amount of time. But when a child comes into care, the goes typically reunification for at least 6 months. After the 6-month time frame, profiles can be referred. The child profile takes about 90 days. The family profile takes about 120. Typically, they're referred at the same time, though. So you want to kind of give 120 days, which is 4 months throughout that time frame. So now we're at 10 months. So we got to 6, then we're at 10. Then at that point, we're looking to see, you know, what's happening with this case. Is there a goal change happening? Is there not a goal change? If the goals change, then, you know, there's sometimes an addendum, or sometimes the profiles are able to be approved. If it's approved, then we move to the finalization service, which can be anywhere between 3 and 8 months time. So this is not, you know, this is not what's the term? This is not a sprint or this is not quick. It takes time. It's a process. And during that time, we are assessing you and the child's relationship. And you're also getting to know your child and learning so much and helping them to process through, you know, experiences. And if they're a baby, just know that, you know, they're learning their things during that time, and we're watching that development to see what may be needed on their end as well. Oh, and before I move on, sorry, then there's the finalization hearing. I apologize. Then the adoption actually happens, and all aspects of the foster to adopt is at no cost. That's one thing I'm mad. I'm almost moved over that. The one thing about, you know, and I'll just say this, I'm also an adoptive parent. At 25, I became a resource parent. And at 27, I adopted my son. And I'll just be clear and say that I wasn't rich. So cost was important to me. I didn't go the private route because honestly, I know that there are grants, but I couldn't afford it. You know, most people or a lot of people I know, they can't. So foster to adopt was important to me because I still wanted my family. I still wanted my child. I still wanted my family. And being able to move forward with this process. And I mean, I wasn't, you know, broke either. I'm a social worker. I mean, we don't make a lot of money, but we live. You know, even though I knew that I could support my child, I knew I couldn't afford the bill that it would cost. But knowing that DHS would, you know, pay for the attorney, pay for certain things throughout the process. He would have, you know, amazing health insurance until he was, you know, 18. Those types of things were important to me as an adoptive parent. You know, even the education grant money, you know. Of course, I have a college fund set up for him, 100%. But knowing that if he goes to school in the state of Pennsylvania, that it's paid for, that's big. That's big. And it was big for me. And it means so much that we live in a system where that's something that's offered, you know? All right, after the finalization, you gain your rights as a parent. So you get that birth certificate, which is, I'll be honest, I was like, hey, when am I getting it? When is it coming? There's Act 101 and visitation in some instances. Some people, they remain connected. The child gets to remain connected to their bio parents and have things like visits, or there's like a plan where, they get to see them every so often. For almost all of the foster to adopts that we've done as an organization, the subsidy continued to be provided until that child's 18th or 21st birthday. So what that means is that if the child was under the age of 13, that subsidy was provided until the child turned 18. Or if the child was over the age or 13 or over, then that subsidy was provided until the time that the child turned 21, because it is something to ensure that that child is continuously supported even after they leave the system, which is an amazing thing Pennsylvania does. The insurance, as I said, great insurance provided up until that 18th or 21st birthday. And then the adoption tax credit, before the adoption, even though you don't have to pay for things out of pocket, sometimes you may have to take off to go and meet with the attorney, take off for just different things for the adoption hearing, things like that. Having an adoption tax credit was important as well, because it helped to cover those expenditures that you can't even plan for. And then lastly, post-permanency services, which is one of my favorite things about foster to adopt. Post-permanency services means that even later on, if things, we don't know what our children, this is if you give birth or you adopt, you don't know what children are going to encounter later on in life. However, post-permanency services through the foster to adopt process means that when those things happen, you have a number that you can call to get the support that you need or that the child may need, or help navigating or identifying those supports. Even if you just need someone to talk to through like a support group or something like that, you have a group, a network of people who are there for you beyond that point of the adoption. And your child doesn't have to be put back in care for you to get those services. They're available to you just because you fostered to adopt or you fostered to PLC. All right, so if you become a resource parent at a second chance, in addition to the things I said earlier, like the medicals, the clearances, things like that, some of the things that we really look for is, if you are doing foster first, that you're open to the mentorship relationship for that biological parent. If you take that route, that what you're saying by fostering is that, hey, I want to support this bio parent in hopes that they are able to provide the best home for their child and get their child back. Additionally, some of the things that we take into consideration, and that's just for if you foster first. If you go to the adoption route, it's different. But some of the other things that we take into consideration is that the youth that are in care, we don't have a large number of babies that come into care, not at this point, where we have children of all ages, primarily teens. So we want to look at households that are going to be affirming and are going to provide, supports culturally, as well as provide, a well-rounded network around that child. We have LGBTQ youth, we have sibling groups, we have SBH, which is a specialized behavioral health, which encompasses so many different behaviors, diagnoses, or even just, limitations, Some of our kids just have limitations, and we have to take those things in consideration. There's also mother baby. I think it's amazing that we have a system that takes into account our young moms and helps and works to keep them with their children, keep them together. So we have something called Mother Baby, and then also just again our teens, a second chance in general. We not only work with Philadelphia County, who we love, we also work with 11 other surrounding counties. because we have a big network, and our children are kind of sliding through. They go from Philadelphia, they're in Delaware County or Montgomery County. We want to be able to follow them and make sure that we're supporting them across counties as well. Again, some of the resources available through post-permanency services are advocacy and respite. And if you're interested in permanency services after the adoption or PLC, and if you're someone on the line who has already adopted or PLC'd in the state of Pennsylvania, you can just call 1-800-585-SWAN. And if you are interested in becoming a resource parent with a second chance, you can just give us a call at this number. Are there any questions? Actually, I have to stop sharing to see. Sorry.
Thanks so much, Tiffany. That was great.
No problem. And I don't see any questions in the chat, but if you think of anything, just feel free to give us a call. My name's Tiffany Byrd. As I said, I'm the managing director over at A Second Chance, and I'm always answering research, foster or prospective foster parents questions. So give us a call anytime.
Great. Do you want to put your the contact information in the chat too? Okay, awesome.
Good there.
All right, I'm going to stop the recording. So thanks to everybody who's watching online.